The rain tasted like metal and regret. I stood outside Luminara, the kind of restaurant where a single appetizer cost more than my weekly grocery budget, watching droplets slide down the floor-to-ceiling windows. Inside, crystal chandeliers scattered light across white tablecloths like scattered diamonds. Outside, I was just another shadow in a second-hand coat, clutching my phone like a lifeline. "Just go in," I whispered to myself, my breath fogging in the November air. "It's just dinner. Normal people do this, but nothing about tonight felt normal. Nothing about my life had felt normal since I'd walked away 6 months ago." I pushed through the heavy doors, and warmth enveloped me, the kind that smelled like aged wine, fresh bread, and money. So much money. The hostess looked up with a practiced smile that faltered when she took in my damp coat and scuffed boots. I didn't belong here. We both knew it. "Reservation?" Her voice was silk wrapped around skepticism. "Meeting someone." "Marcus Chen?" Her expression shifted to something almost sympathetic. "Of course. This way." She led me through the dining room, past tables where people spoke in hushed tones about mergers and vacations in places I couldn't pronounce. My heart hammered against my ribs. Marcus was nice, safe, a software engineer I'd met at the library where I worked, shelving books and avoiding my own thoughts. He'd asked me out 3 times before I'd finally said yes, and only because my roommate had threatened to accept on my behalf if I didn't stop living like a nun with PTSD. Her words, not mine. Though she wasn't entirely wrong about the PTSD part, Marcus stood when he saw me, his smile genuine and uncomplicated. "Evelyn, you made it. I was worried the rain might—" "I'm here," I said, shedding my coat with fingers that trembled slightly. "Sorry I'm late." "You're not. I'm early." "I'm always early." He pulled out my chair, and I sank into it, grateful for something solid beneath me. "You look beautiful." I didn't. I looked tired, like I hadn't slept properly in months, because I hadn't. But Marcus was kind, and kindness was something I'd learned to appreciate in its rarity. We ordered. He talked about his work, about a hiking trip he was planning, about a new Thai restaurant that had opened in his neighborhood. Normal conversation. Safe conversation. I tried to focus, tried to be present, but my spine remained rigid, my peripheral vision too aware of every movement in the room. Old habits died hard, or maybe they didn't die at all. I was reaching for my water glass when the atmosphere shifted. It wasn't something I could see at first. Just a change in pressure, like the air before a storm. Conversations didn't stop exactly, but they stuttered, lowered. The hostess straightened near the entrance, her spine snapping to attention in a way that made my stomach drop. "Evelyn?" Marcus's voice seemed far away. "Are you okay?" I couldn't answer, couldn't breathe, because I knew. God help me, I knew before I even turned my head. He stood in the entrance like he owned it, because he probably did. Own it, I mean. Lorenzo Valentino didn't walk into rooms. He claimed them. 6 feet of controlled violence in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my car, his dark hair styled with careless precision, his jaw sharp enough to cut glass. 2 men flanked him, his shadows, always present, always watching. One spoke quietly into his phone, while the other scanned the room with eyes that missed nothing. But it was Lorenzo who held the space captive. Lorenzo whose presence made grown men shift in their seats, and women forget their dinner companions. Lorenzo, whose gray eyes were scanning the dining room with predatory precision. "Don't look here. Don't look here. Don't." Our eyes met. Time did something strange, stretched and compressed simultaneously. I watched his expression shift through stages too quick to name. Surprise, recognition, something dark and possessive that made my skin prickle with memory. His jaw tightened, that telltale sign that preceded either violence or worse things. Things that had once made me forget my own name. Then his gaze moved to Marcus. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. "Evelyn?" Marcus tried again, reaching across the table to touch my hand. "You look like you've seen a ghost." My voice came out strangled. "I need to—" But Lorenzo was already moving. He didn't rush. Lorenzo never rushed. He moved with the inevitability of a tide, his guards adjusting their positions in silent coordination. The maitre d' appeared from nowhere, falling into step beside him, nodding at whatever quiet command Lorenzo issued. People shifted out of his path without seeming to realize they were doing it, responding to something primal that recognized a predator in their midst. He was coming straight toward us. "Do you know that guy?" Marcus asked, following my stare. "He's looking right at..." "Marcus." I stood abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. "I'm so sorry, but I have to go." "What?" "Evelyn, we haven't even..." Lorenzo was 10 feet away. 8. 6. I could smell him now. That distinctive scent of expensive cologne mixed with something uniquely him, leather and cedar and danger. It hit me like a physical force, dragging up memories I'd spent 6 months trying to bury, his hands in my hair, his voice in the darkness, the way he'd looked at me like I was something precious and trapped simultaneously. "I'm sorry," I repeated, grabbing my coat and purse with shaking hands. "I can't. I have to, Evelyn." Lorenzo's voice cut through the restaurant's ambient noise like a blade through silk. Low, controlled, with an edge that made several nearby diners look up. "Sit down." It wasn't a request. Marcus stood, his nice, safe face showing confusion and the first hints of concern. "Hey, buddy. I don't know who you..." Lorenzo didn't even look at him. His eyes stayed locked on mine, gray and cold and absolutely furious beneath the controlled surface. "We need to talk." "No." My voice came out steadier than I felt. "We don't." "Sit down." Each word was precisely enunciated, carrying weight that had nothing to do with volume. Around us, I felt rather than saw his guards positioning themselves, blocking exit routes with casual efficiency. Marcus, bless him, stepped between us. "Look, I don't know what this is about, but the lady said no. So maybe you should..." Lorenzo's gaze finally shifted to Marcus, and I watched my date physically recoil. Whatever he saw in those eyes made him step back, made his face go pale, made him suddenly understand that he'd wandered into something far beyond a simple interrupted dinner. "Who is this guy?" Lorenzo's question was directed at me, but his eyes stayed on Marcus with the focused intensity of a snake selecting which mouse to strike. The jealousy in his voice was unmistakable, barely leashed, vibrating beneath each syllable like a plucked wire. "A friend," I managed. "Marcus, please, just go. I'll explain later, A friend." Lorenzo's laugh was soft and utterly devoid of humor. His hand moved to his jaw, that gesture I knew too well, the one that meant he was calculating, deciding how much damage to do and how quickly. "You're on a date with a friend?" The possessiveness in his tone made my skin flush hot and cold simultaneously. This was why I'd left. This exact moment, the way he looked at me like I was his property, his to guard and keep and control. The way that look made something traitorous in my chest respond with want, instead of the fear any sane person should feel. "Lorenzo, don't..." "Sir." One of his guards stepped forward, speaking in rapid Italian, too low for anyone else to hear. Lorenzo's expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted. He pulled his phone from his inner pocket, glanced at the screen, and his jaw tightened further. When he looked back at me, there was a promise in his eyes that made my stomach flip. "We're not done, Evelyn. Not even close." He turned to the maitre d' who'd been hovering at a respectful distance. "That table." He gestured toward a corner booth with clear sightlines to where I stood. "Now." "Of course, Mr. Valentino." Right away, my heart sank. He wasn't leaving. He was staying, positioning himself where he could watch every breath I took, every word Marcus said, every moment of the date I'd hoped would prove I could move on. Lorenzo walked to his table with his guards in formation, and only when he sat, never once looking away from me, did the restaurant seem to remember how to breathe. Marcus stood frozen, his face a mixture of confusion and dawning fear. "Evelyn, what the hell was that? Who is that guy?" I sank back into my chair, my legs suddenly unable to support me. Lorenzo was watching from his corner booth, a glass of scotch appearing before him as if by magic. His posture relaxed, but his eyes absolutely feral. "Someone I used to know," I whispered. "Used to know." That guy looked at me like he was planning my funeral. He wasn't wrong. I'd seen Lorenzo plan funerals before. Actual ones. I'd seen him order things with a phone call that made people disappear. I'd seen the darkness underneath the expensive suits and controlled exterior. And I'd run from it 6 months ago because staying would have meant losing myself completely. Marcus, you should go. I couldn't tear my gaze from Lorenzo. Couldn't stop the way my body remembered his presence. Please. This was a mistake. I'm not leaving you alone with you are. The firmness in my voice surprised us both. Trust me. You want to be nowhere near this. He hesitated, good and decent, and completely out of his depth. Will you be okay? No. Yes. Just go. Please. Marcus left a few bills on the table, more than enough to cover what we'd ordered, and gave me one last concerned look before threading his way toward the exit. I watched him pass Lorenzo's table, watched one of the guards track his movement with clinical precision, watched Lorenzo raise his glass in a mocking salute that made my date quicken his pace. Then we were alone. Well, as alone as anyone could be in a restaurant full of people, with Lorenzo's guards positioned like chess pieces and his attention fixed on me with laser focus. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, but I knew that number. I deleted it 6 months ago, but I knew it. Come here. My hands shook as I typed back. No, another buzz. Come here, or I come there. Your choice, Piccola. The endearment hit like a blow. Little one. He'd called me that in moments both tender and commanding, whispered it against my skin in the darkness, used it like a collar and leash combined. I stood on trembling legs, aware that every eye in the restaurant was tracking this strange drama, aware that the maitre d' was watching with barely concealed interest, aware that I was walking straight back into the fire I'd barely escaped. Each step toward Lorenzo's table felt like walking underwater, pressure building in my chest until I couldn't tell if I was drowning or had simply forgotten how to breathe without his permission. He didn't stand when I reached his table. Didn't smile. Just gestured to the seat across from him with a hand that bore a single ring, silver, engraved with symbols I'd never been allowed to ask about. Sit. I remained standing, a small rebellion that cost me more than he'd ever know. What do you want, Lorenzo? His smile was sharp enough to draw blood. What do I want? He leaned forward, elbows on the table, his voice dropping to that dangerous register that made my spine straighten. I want to know who the fuck that was, and I want to know why you thought you could go on a date. His voice caressed the word with venom, without telling me first. I don't need your permission to— The hell you don't. The raw possessiveness in those 4 words made my breath catch. This was why I'd left. This consuming, overwhelming need he had to control every aspect of my existence. This beautiful, terrifying cage he'd built and called it protection. We're done, Lorenzo. I left. 6 months ago. I made myself very clear. You left. He said it like he was tasting the words, finding them distasteful. You left a note on my pillow like I was some one-night stand you regretted, took nothing but your clothes, and disappeared. You blocked my number, changed your address, got your librarian job under your middle name so I couldn't track you easily. His eyes glittered with something between admiration and fury. Do you have any idea how many people I had looking for you? How many months it took before I finally decided to let you have your space? Let me? The word came out sharp. You don't let me do anything, Lorenzo. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. No? He tilted his head, studying me like a particularly interesting problem to solve. Then tell me, Evelyn, how does it work? You live in that shithole apartment in Riverside, shelving books for minimum wage, eating ramen for dinner, because that's better than being with me? My blood went cold. You've been watching me. Of course I've been watching you. He said it like it was obvious, like stalking was a natural expression of— what? Love? Obsession? Whatever dark thing pulsed between us that I'd never found a name for. You're mine. That doesn't change because you got scared and ran. I'm not yours. You are. He leaned back, taking a slow sip of his scotch, his eyes never leaving mine. You've always been mine, from the first moment you stumbled into my restaurant with your shy smiles and your belief that the world was good. You're mine, Piccola, and seeing you with him, his jaw clenched. Seeing another man touch what belongs to me makes me want to burn this entire fucking city down. The intensity in his voice should have terrified me. Instead, It made something dark and needy unfurl in my chest. That part of me I'd been trying to starve into submission for 6 months. You can't. I can. He set down his glass with careful precision. I can do anything I want, Evelyn. You know that. The question is whether I choose to show restraint. His eyes dropped to my left hand, and his expression darkened further. Not wearing your ring. Because we were never married. We were. His voice went soft, deadly. In every way that matters, you are mine. Are mine. Will always be mine. One of his guards approached, murmured something in Italian. Lorenzo's expression shifted, became more focused, more dangerous. He responded in the same language, his tone commanding, then looked back at me. We're leaving. I'm not going anywhere with you. Yes, you are. He stood in one fluid motion, buttoning his suit jacket. Because if you don't, I'm going to find out where Marcus Chen lives, what he does, who he loves, and I'm going to make sure he understands exactly what happens to men who put their hands on what's mine. The threat wasn't empty. I'd learned early that Lorenzo never made empty threats. You wouldn't. His smile was cold. Try me, Piccola. Walk out that door alone and see what's left of your nice safe date by morning. My hands clenched into fists at my sides. This is exactly why I left. This possessive, controlling honesty. He stepped closer, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to hold his gaze, close enough that his scent surrounded me like smoke. I've never lied about what I am, Evelyn. Never pretended to be anything but exactly this. His hand rose slowly, giving me time to pull away, before his fingers traced the line of my jaw with devastating gentleness. You're the one who fell in love with a monster and then acted surprised when he refused to let you go. The touch scorched. 6 months of distance, 6 months of trying to forget, and his fingers on my skin undid it all in seconds. I don't love you, I whispered. Liar. His thumb brushed across my lower lip, and my breath caught. Your body knows who it belongs to, even if your mind keeps fighting it. Come with me, Piccola. We have 6 months to discuss. Around us, the restaurant had gone absolutely silent. Everyone watching this strange, terrible performance, the billionaire and the nobody, the predator and his prey. I should have screamed, should have called for help, should have done anything but nod slowly, feeling the trap close around me with the finality of a prison door. Lorenzo's smile was triumph and darkness combined. His hand slid to the small of my back, proprietary and warm through the thin fabric of my dress, guiding me toward the exit. His guards fell into formation around us. One ahead, one behind, creating a corridor of protection that felt more like a cage. The cold November air hit my face as we exited, but it did nothing to clear the fog in my head. A black SUV waited at the curb, engine running, windows tinted dark enough to hide anything. Everything. Where are we going? My voice sounded far away. Lorenzo's hand tightened on my back, pulling me flush against his side. When he spoke, his breath was warm against my ear, his words both promise and threat. Home, Evelyn. Where you've always belonged. The door opened. The leather interior smelled like wealth and confinement, and despite everything, every lesson learned, every promise I'd made to myself, every reason I'd had for running, I let him guide me inside. The door closed behind us with the finality of fate. The SUV pulled away from the curb with the smooth silence of expensive machinery, and I became acutely aware of how small the space was, how close Lorenzo sat beside me, his thigh pressed against mine, his arm stretched across the back of the seat in a gesture that was both casual and caging. The driver, a man I recognized as Carlo, who'd been with Lorenzo for years, didn't look back, didn't acknowledge my presence at all. The guard in the passenger seat kept his eyes forward, his hand resting near his hip in a way that suggested a weapon was never far from reach. We were moving through the city, rain-slicked streets reflecting neon and headlights, and I had no idea where we were going. Not to his penthouse downtown. We were heading in the wrong direction, not to any of the places I'd known during our time together. You're quiet. Lorenzo's voice was low, intimate in the darkness of the car. His fingers found my shoulder, tracing patterns through my dress that made my skin hypersensitive. Usually you're fighting me by now. What's the point? The words came out more defeated than I'd intended. You've already won. Won. He repeated the word like he was testing its weight. Is that what you think this is? A game with winners and losers? Isn't it? His hand moved to my chin, turning my face toward his with gentle insistence. In the passing streetlights, his features were all sharp angles and shadows, beautiful and terrible in equal measure. This stopped being a game the night you looked at me across a crowded room and smiled like I wasn't something to be feared. I remembered that night, 8 months ago, a charity gala at the Metropolitan Museum, where I'd been hired as temporary catering staff, serving champagne to people who wouldn't remember my face 5 minutes later. I'd been nobody, invisible in my black uniform and sensible shoes, and he'd been magnetic, surrounded by men in expensive suits and women draped in diamonds, but his eyes had found me through the crowd like a heat-seeking missile. I'd smiled because I was supposed to smile at the guests. I hadn't known who he was, hadn't known what he was. That was before I knew, I said quietly. Knew what? That I'm not some software engineer with a 401k and weekend hobbies? His thumb stroked along my jaw, possessive and gentle. That I live in a world where power is currency and violence is sometimes necessary? You knew, Evelyn. Maybe not the details, but you felt it. That's why you were drawn to me in the first place. I was drawn to a lie. No. His voice hardened. You were drawn to the truth of me, the parts you saw beneath the surface. The danger, the control. The way I looked at you like you were the only thing in the room worth my attention. His eyes searched mine in the darkness. Don't rewrite our history because you got scared. The SUV turned onto a private road, trees pressing close on either side, branches scraping against the windows like skeletal fingers. My heart rate kicked up. Where are we going? Somewhere we can talk without interruption. Lorenzo's hand slid down to capture mine, his fingers lacing through my own. Somewhere you can't run. The trees opened up to reveal a house. No, an estate. 3 stories of stone and glass rising from manicured grounds, lit from within like something from a dream or a nightmare. Security lights flickered on as we approached, illuminating a circular driveway and a fountain that looked like it belonged in a European palace. You bought a new house. My voice sounded hollow. I bought it 3 months ago. The SUV stopped at the front entrance, and Carla was already out, opening Lorenzo's door. After I finally found you and realized you weren't coming back on your own, the implication settled over me like a weighted blanket. You bought this for us. He stepped out, then turned to offer me his hand. Come, Piccola. Let me show you your new home. I didn't take his hand. This isn't my home. I have an apartment, a life. You can't just... Can I? He leaned back into the car, and suddenly the space between us evaporated. His hand cupped the back of my neck, fingers tangling in my hair with practiced ease. You've had 6 months to build your little life, Evelyn. Your safe life with your safe job, and your safe dates with men who bore you to tears. How's that working out? Better than being your prisoner. His laugh was soft against my lips. We were that close. You were never my prisoner. You were my obsession, my addiction. The one thing in this world I can't control and can't let go. His grip tightened slightly, just enough to remind me of his strength. Now stop fighting and come inside. We both know you're not leaving tonight. He was right, and I hated him for it. Hated myself more for the way my body responded to his proximity, to the command in his voice, to the dark promise in his eyes. I took his hand. The interior of the house was stunning, all soaring ceilings and modern luxury, but warmer than his downtown penthouse had been. Dark wood floors, cream-colored walls, furniture that looked both expensive and comfortable, but it was the details that made my chest tighten. Fresh flowers in crystal vases, the kind I loved. Books on the shelves, titles I'd mentioned wanting to read. A painting on the wall that I'd admired once in a gallery we'd visited. He'd built this place with me in mind. Every detail was a message. I know you. I remember. You're mine. Your room is upstairs. Lorenzo shrugged out of his suit jacket, draping it over a chair with casual grace. Second door on the right. Carlo brought your things earlier. I froze. My things? From your apartment. He moved to a bar cart, pouring 2 glasses of wine with practiced ease. Your clothes, your books, your laptop, everything you'll need. The casual violation of my privacy should have enraged me. Instead, A cold numbness spread through my limbs. You broke into my apartment. I own the building. He turned, offering me a glass. Breaking in suggests I needed permission. You own... My voice cracked. How long? How long have you owned it? Since the day you moved in. His smile was slight, knowing. Did you really think I'd let you live somewhere I couldn't control? Somewhere without security, without cameras, without my people watching to make sure you were safe? The wine glass trembled in my hand. 4 months. I'd lived in that apartment for 4 months, thinking I was finally free, finally anonymous, and he'd been watching the entire time. The landlord who gave me such a good rate on the rent, I said slowly, pieces clicking into place. The maintenance man who was always so helpful. The security guard who walked me to my car at night. All mine. Lorenzo took a sip of his wine, watching me over the rim. You've never been alone, Evelyn, never been unprotected. Even when you hated me, even when you were trying to forget I existed, I was there. I set the wine down before I dropped it. That's not protection. That's surveillance. In my world, they're the same thing. He moved closer, each step deliberate. You don't understand what it means to love someone like you in a life like mine. The enemies I have. The dangers that exist just from being associated with me, letting you walk around without protection, without knowing you're safe. His jaw clenched. I'd rather cut out my own heart than let me go. The words came out desperate. If being with you is so dangerous, if loving me is such a liability, then let me go. Let me be normal, Lorenzo. Let me be free. No. Simple. Absolute. Final. I'll kill every threat, eliminate every danger, burn this city to ash before I let you go. You don't get to choose safety over us, Evelyn. You don't get to choose at all. His hand cupped my face, thumb brushing away a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. The gentleness of the gesture contrasted sharply with the steel in his voice, creating a dissonance that made my head spin. Why? I whispered. Why me? You could have anyone. Models, actresses, women who understand your world, who wouldn't fight you every step because you see me. His forehead pressed against mine, his breath mingling with my own. Not the power, not the money, not the fear I inspire. You see the man underneath, and you're still here. Still fighting, yes, but still here. Do you know how rare that is? How precious? His lips brushed mine, barely a kiss, more like a question. My body answered before my mind could intervene, leaning into him, seeking more. 6 months of distance, of denial, of trying to convince myself I didn't crave this. All of it crumbled in the space of a heartbeat. Lorenzo made a sound low in his throat, something between triumph and relief, and deepened the kiss. His hand fisted in my hair, angling my head exactly how he wanted it, taking control the way he always did. And I let him, because fighting this was like fighting gravity, futile and exhausting. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. His eyes had darkened to charcoal, pupils blown with desire and possession in equal measure. Upstairs, he commanded, his voice rough. Now, Lorenzo. Now, Evelyn. His hand found my lower back, urging me toward the staircase. We have 6 months of distance to erase, and I'm done being patient. The stairs seemed endless, each step taking me further from the door, from escape, from whatever illusion of freedom I'd been clinging to. Lorenzo's hand never left my back, a constant pressure reminding me of his presence, his control, his utter certainty that I belonged to him. The bedroom was a masterpiece of understated luxury, a king-sized bed with charcoal linens, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the grounds, furniture in warm woods and soft fabrics. But what made my breath catch was the wall of photographs. Us. Dozens of photos of us from our time together. At restaurants, at galas, at his penthouse in the early morning light. My face in every image, sometimes laughing, sometimes serious, sometimes caught in unguarded moments where my love for him was written across my features like a confession. You kept them. My voice was barely audible. I kept everything. Lorenzo stood behind me, his chest against my back, his arms coming around my waist. Every photo, every text message, every voicemail you left before you ran. I've listened to your voice every night for 6 months, Evelyn. Tortured myself with memories of how you felt in my arms, how you tasted, how you said my name when you... Stop. I couldn't hear this. Couldn't let him pull me back into the undertow of us. This is insane. This whole thing, the house, the photos, breaking into my apartment, it's not love, Lorenzo. It's obsession. Yes. He turned me in his arms, forcing me to meet his eyes. It's obsession. It's possession. It's every dark, consuming thing you accused me of being. But it's also love, Piccola. The kind that doesn't know how to let go, that doesn't understand the meaning of enough. I love you like a drowning man loves air, and I won't apologize for it. His phone buzzed insistently. He ignored it. It buzzed again, and his expression hardened. With a muttered curse in Italian, he pulled it from his pocket, glancing at the screen. Whatever he saw made his entire body tense. What? I asked, recognizing that shift in his demeanor, from lover to something far more dangerous. Nothing you need to worry about, but his eyes had gone cold, calculating. He typed a quick response, then pocketed the phone. I need to make a call. Don't even think about leaving this room. Lorenzo, stay. Here. Each word was enunciated with precision. My men are positioned throughout the house and grounds. You won't make it past the driveway. He pressed a kiss to my forehead, lingering, possessive. I'll be back in 10 minutes. Then we finish this conversation. He left, closing the door behind him with a soft click that somehow sounded like a lock engaging. I stood alone in the beautiful prison he'd built, surrounded by evidence of his obsession, and tried to remember who I'd been before Lorenzo Valentino had looked at me across a crowded room and decided I was his. The photos on the wall showed a woman in love, radiant and unguarded. That woman felt like a stranger now. Or maybe she was who I'd always been, and these 6 months of running had been the real lie. I moved to the window, pressing my hand against the cool glass. The grounds stretched out below, lit by strategically placed lights that revealed every shadow, every potential hiding place. In the distance, I could see figures patrolling, Lorenzo's guards, making sure his newest acquisition didn't escape. My phone, the one I still had in my purse, buzzed. A text from Marcus. Are you okay? That guy seemed dangerous. Should I call someone? Sweet, safe Marcus. Who thought dangerous meant a jealous ex-boyfriend, not a man who could make people disappear with a single phone call. I typed back. I'm fine. Don't contact me again. Please, for your own safety. Another text appeared before I could put the phone away. This one from an unknown number. Delete his number. Block it. If I see his name in your phone again, he becomes a problem. And you know how I solve problems. My hands shook as I complied, erasing Marcus from my contacts, from my life, from any possibility of normalcy. Lorenzo was right. Marcus wouldn't survive in my world. In Lorenzo's world, which had always been my world too, whether I wanted to admit it or not. Voices drifted up from downstairs. Lorenzo's, speaking rapid Italian, in a tone that made my spine straighten. I couldn't make out the words, but I recognized that particular edge. Something was wrong. Something in his business, his other life, the one he'd always tried to keep separate from me. The door opened, and Lorenzo stood in the threshold, his expression unreadable. He'd loosened his tie, rolled up his shirt sleeves, and somehow managed to look even more dangerous than before. We need to talk, he said, and something in his voice made my stomach drop. About what? About why you really left. He crossed the room in 3 strides, gripping my shoulders with barely controlled intensity. And about the man who helped you disappear. My blood went cold. I don't know what you're... Don't! His fingers tightened fractionally. Don't lie to me, Evelyn. Not now. Not about this. His eyes searched mine, and I saw something I'd rarely witnessed in Lorenzo. Genuine hurt beneath the anger. Someone helped you cover your tracks. Someone with knowledge of my security systems, my people, my operations. Someone who knew exactly how to hide you from me. The room felt too small, the air too thin. Lorenzo. Was it him? The jealousy was back, raw and vicious. Your date tonight, was he the one? Is that why you were with him, because he helped you escape? No. Marcus has nothing to do with... Then who? He shook me slightly, desperation creeping into his voice. Give me a name, Evelyn. Tell me who took you from me, and I swear on my father's grave, they'll wish they'd never been born. I couldn't tell him. Wouldn't tell him. Because the person who'd helped me disappear, who'd given me money and a new identity and a way out. The door burst open, and one of Lorenzo's guards rushed in, speaking urgently in Italian. Lorenzo's face went through a series of expressions: surprise, rage, and something that might have been fear if Lorenzo Valentino was capable of feeling such a thing. He released me, stepping back, his hand already moving to the phone in his pocket. Stay here, he commanded, then switched to Italian, issuing orders that made the guard's face go pale. What's happening? I demanded. Lorenzo looked at me, and for the first time since I'd known him, I saw genuine uncertainty in his eyes. Someone just tried to kill my brother. The house erupted into controlled chaos. Guards appeared from everywhere, the hallways, the grounds, materializing like shadows given form. Lorenzo's phone rang constantly, a symphony of crisis that he answered in clipped Italian, his voice a blade cutting through confusion. I stood frozen in the bedroom doorway, watching him transform from the man who'd kissed me moments ago into something else entirely, the head of an empire under siege. Dove? Where? His knuckles were white around the phone. Quanto tempo fa? How long ago? A pause. Then his jaw clenched so hard I heard his teeth grind. Whatever he heard made his face go absolutely savage. Nessuno entra o esce. Capito? Nessuno. No one in or out. Understood? No one. He ended the call, immediately dialing another number, pacing like a caged predator. His eyes found me across the room, and something in his expression made my chest constrict. Not anger. Calculation. The kind that preceded moves on a chessboard I couldn't see. Lorenzo, what? He held up one finger, silencing me, still speaking into the phone. More orders, more Italian, then finally, portala qui. Adesso. Bring her here. Now, her. He pocketed the phone and crossed to me in 2 strides, gripping my arms with an intensity that bordered on painful. Listen to me very carefully. My brother Marco is in surgery right now. Someone put 3 bullets in him outside his apartment in Brooklyn. He's alive, but... His voice cracked. Just barely. Just enough to show me the man beneath the monster. He might not stay that way. Oh God, Lorenzo, this wasn't random. His eyes bored into mine, searching for something. This was a message. Someone knows I found you. Someone knows you're here. His hands moved to frame my face, thumbs stroking my cheekbones with desperate gentleness. Someone is trying to hurt me by taking the people I love. The implication settled like ice in my veins. You think I'm in danger. I know you are. He pressed his forehead to mine, and I felt him trembling, actually trembling, with suppressed rage and fear. Which means whoever helped you 6 months ago, whoever gave you the resources to disappear, they knew things. Private things. Family things. Things only someone very close to me would know. My stomach dropped. No, that's not... Who was it, Evelyn? His voice dropped to something deadly quiet, more terrifying than if he'd shouted. Who did you trust over me? Who convinced you that running was safer than staying? Because right now, my brother is bleeding out in an operating room, and I need to know if the person who helped you is the same person trying to destroy everything I've built. I pulled away from him, wrapping my arms around myself. The truth sat on my tongue like a stone, heavy and impossible to swallow. Because he was right. The person who'd helped me had known things. Had known Lorenzo's security rotations, his blind spots, the one window of time I could slip away unnoticed. It was family, I whispered. Lorenzo went absolutely still. What? Your aunt, Sophia. The name came out like a confession. She came to me 3 months after we started seeing each other. She said... My voice cracked. She said you were dangerous, that women who loved you ended up dead or disappeared. She showed me photos of your ex-girlfriends, police reports. newspaper articles about missing persons. She said if I stayed, I'd become another statistic. The silence that followed was deafening. Lorenzo's face had gone blank, empty of all expression, which was somehow more terrifying than his rage. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely recognizable. Sophia. She said she was protecting me, that she'd seen you become more obsessed, more possessive, and she couldn't watch another innocent girl get swallowed by your world. Tears were streaming down my face now. She gave me money, new documents, a place to stay while I figured out my next move. She said it was what your mother would have wanted, to save me from you. My mother. Lorenzo laughed, and it was the most broken sound I'd ever heard from him. My mother who died when I was 8. Who Sophia hated because my father loved her more than his own sister. He turned away, hands fisting in his hair. Cazzo! Cazzo! Lorenzo! He spun back, and the look on his face made me step back. Those ex-girlfriends she showed you, the missing persons. Did you verify any of it? Did you think to question why my father's sister would suddenly develop a conscience about my relationships? The truth was I hadn't. I'd been so scared, so overwhelmed by Lorenzo's intensity, that when Sophia had presented evidence of his darkness, I'd accepted it without question. She seemed genuine. She seemed... He cut himself off, breathing hard. Eva Martinez, the one she probably told you I killed. Married to a senator in California with 3 kids. Lucia Rossi, running her family's restaurant chain in Italy. Sophia Chen, teaching literature at Yale. His voice was shaking now. Every single woman I've ever cared about is alive, Evelyn. Alive and well, and probably wondering why I never called them back after they decided my life was too complicated for them. The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. But the photos, the police reports, faked, all of it. Lorenzo moved to the window, staring out at his grounds, his security, his fortress. Sophia has been trying to undermine me for years. She thinks she should have inherited control when my father died, not me. She's been waiting for any opportunity to weaken my position, to divide my loyalties, to... He stopped abruptly. To isolate me. The pieces were rearranging themselves in my head, forming a picture I didn't want to see. Marco, your brother, he's always supported you, hasn't he? Always had your back. He's the only family I trust. Lorenzo's reflection in the glass looked haunted. Was the only family I trusted. And now someone's tried to kill him, right after you found me again. My voice was barely a whisper, right after I came back into your life. Lorenzo turned slowly, and the look in his eyes was ancient and cold. Sophia wants me alone, wants me weak. She's been poisoning my relationships for years. Business partners who suddenly back out of deals, allies who turn enemy, women who run in the middle of the night thinking I'm a monster. His gaze locked on mine, and then there's you. The one I couldn't let go, the one who got away, making me look weak, making me look obsessed and distracted. Do you know what that does to my reputation? My authority? Lorenzo, I didn't know. No, you didn't. He crossed back to me, and despite everything, his touch was gentle when he cupped my face. Because you're good, Evelyn. You see the best in people, even when you shouldn't, even when it nearly gets you killed. A knock at the door interrupted us. Carlo entered, his expression grim. Boss. She's here. Lorenzo's entire demeanor shifted, became something carved from ice in retribution. Downstairs, the study. And Carlo? He paused at the door. Make sure she's comfortable. The emphasis on the last word made my skin prickle. Lorenzo, what are you going to do? He looked back at me, and the man who'd kissed me with desperate passion was gone. In his place stood the Don, the killer, the man who'd built an empire on fear and absolute control. I'm going to have a conversation with my aunt. And you're going to stay up here, where it's safe, and wait for me. I can't just... You can, and you will. He crossed back, tilting my chin up with one finger, because if my suspicions are correct, Sophia didn't just try to take you from me, Piccola. She tried to take everything. My brother, my authority, my sanity. His thumb brushed across my lower lip. And nobody takes what's mine without paying a price. The kiss he gave me was brief, but searing, filled with dark promise and darker intent. Then he was gone, the door closing behind him with finality. I waited exactly 30 seconds before following. The house was a maze of hallways and rooms, but I'd always been good at reading spaces, at finding my way. The sounds led me. Raised voices from below, one male and harsh, one female and defiant. I crept down the main staircase, staying in the shadows, until I could see into the study through the partially open door. Sofia Valentino sat in a leather chair, her silver hair perfectly coiffed, her designer suit immaculate. She looked like someone's elegant grandmother, not a woman who'd orchestrated attempted murder. 2 of Lorenzo's guards flanked her, their presence turning the comfortable chair into something more ominous. Lorenzo stood before her, hands in his pockets, the picture of casual control. But I could see the tension in his shoulders, the white-knuckled fury he was barely containing. "You look well, nephew." Sofia's voice was cultured, smooth. "I heard you had an eventful evening. Where's Marco?" Lorenzo's voice could have frozen fire. "How should I know? I've been at the opera all evening." She smiled, and it didn't reach her eyes. Verdi, La Traviata. Quite moving, really. A story about a woman who sacrifices everything for love, only to die alone and forgotten. Poetic. Lorenzo moved closer, each step deliberate, and completely useless as an alibi, since I have security footage of you meeting with Dmitry Volkov 3 days ago. You remember Dmitry? The Bratva enforcer who's been trying to move into our territory for the past year? Sofia's smile faltered. "You're mistaken." "Am I?" Lorenzo pulled out his phone, tapping the screen. He turned it toward her, and even from my position, I could see the video playing. Sofia at a corner cafe, sitting across from a hard-faced man with Slavic features. Looks pretty clear to me. My aunt, having coffee with my enemy, 2 days before my brother gets shot. That proves nothing. But her voice had lost some of its confidence. "No?" Lorenzo pocketed the phone. "What about the wire transfer, the one from your private account to an offshore entity that just happens to be a front for Volkov's operation? Or the texts from a burner phone registered to your housekeeper, coordinating Marco's schedule?" He leaned down, hands on the armrests, caging her in. "Or the fact that you've been feeding information to my competitors for months, undermining deals, sabotaging relationships, all while playing the devoted aunt." Sofia's composure cracked. "You arrogant boy. You think you deserve what your father built. You're just like him, obsessed with power, with control, with keeping everything under your thumb while the family suffers." "The family suffers?" Lorenzo's laugh was bitter. "The family has never been stronger. Profits are up 40%. We've expanded into 3 new territories. Our legitimate businesses are thriving. The only one suffering is you, Aunt. Because you weren't born with a dick and so father passed you over." "He was wrong." Sofia stood abruptly, and the guards moved forward, but Lorenzo waved them back. "I was smarter, more strategic, more capable than any of you. But because I was a woman, I was pushed aside, made to watch while you and Marco played at being men, while you brought shame to this family with your obsessions and your weaknesses." "Weaknesses." Lorenzo's voice went soft. "You mean Evelyn." Sofia's eyes glittered with malice. "That insipid little librarian? She was perfect. So easy to manipulate, so ready to believe that you were a monster. I barely had to work to convince her to run. And once she was gone, I watched you fall apart. Watched you become distracted, obsessed, weak." She smiled, sharp and cold. "It was almost too easy. From my hiding place, I pressed my hand to my mouth, fighting the urge to scream. Every doubt, every fear, every reason I'd had for leaving, all of it had been manufactured. Lies wrapped in enough truth to be believable." "And Marco?" Lorenzo's voice could have cut glass. "Was shooting my brother also easy? Marco was always too loyal to you, too willing to follow your lead, to support your every decision. With him gone, the family would have fractured. The other families would have seen weakness, moved in, and when the dust settled, Who would they have turned to? Who's been managing the family's interest in Europe? Who's been maintaining relationships with our oldest allies? You. Lorenzo's hands clenched at his sides. You actually thought they'd choose you over me. They will choose survival, Sophia's voice turned vicious. And you, nephew, distracted by your pretty little toy upstairs, obsessed with a woman who ran from you once and will run again. You're not fit to lead. Your father would be ashamed. The slap came so fast I almost missed it. Lorenzo's palm connected with Sophia's face with enough force to snap her head to the side. The guards didn't move. Neither did Sophia, beyond touching her reddening cheek with shaking fingers. My father, Lorenzo said, his voice deadly calm, would have done far worse. He would have made an example of you that would be whispered about for generations. But I'm not my father. He straightened his cuffs with precise movements. Carlo, take her to the warehouse. Make sure she's comfortable while we wait for Marco's surgery to finish. Lorenzo, no. Sophia's composure finally shattered. You can't. I'm family. Your father's sister was a traitor the moment she made a deal with the Bratva. Lorenzo turned his back on her, the ultimate dismissal. And traitors don't get to hide behind blood. They get exactly what they've earned. The guards moved forward, gripping Sophia's arms. She fought, screaming threats and curses in Italian as they dragged her toward a side door. Her voice echoed through the house, then cut off abruptly as a door slammed. Lorenzo stood alone in the study, his shoulders tight, his head bowed. In the sudden silence, I heard him take a shuddering breath. I should have retreated. Should have given him privacy, space to process what he'd just learned, what he'd just done. Instead, I found myself walking forward, pushing open the study door, drawn by something deeper than caution or self-preservation. He didn't turn when I entered, but his voice was rough when he spoke. I told you to stay upstairs. When have I ever done what you told me? I moved closer, close enough to see his hands trembling at his sides. Lorenzo, don't. The word was sharp, broken. Don't comfort me. Don't tell me it's not my fault. I brought you into this world, Evelyn. I made you a target the moment I decided you were mine. Sophia was right about one thing. I'm obsessed, dangerously, destructively obsessed with you. I reached for his hand, lacing my fingers through his. She lied to me. About everything. The photos, the stories, all of it was real enough to make you believe. He finally turned, and the pain in his eyes was raw, unguarded, real enough to make you look at me like I was a monster. And maybe I am, Piccola. Maybe she told you the truth about that part, because right now, all I want to do is go to that warehouse and make her scream for what she took from us. From me, then do it. The word surprised me as much as him. Not because of revenge, but because she tried to kill your brother. Because she betrayed your family. Because justice in your world looks different than justice in mine. And I'm finally starting to understand that. Lorenzo stared at me like he was seeing someone new. I'm saying I was naive. I judged you by the wrong standards, believed the wrong person, ran when I should have asked questions. I stepped closer, until I could feel his heat, his barely controlled fury and fear. I'm saying Sophia played us both, and I'm done letting her win. His arms came around me like steel bands, crushing me against his chest. I felt him shaking, felt the desperation in the way he held me, like I might disappear if he loosened his grip. I can't lose you again, he whispered against my hair. I can't survive it. These 6 months without you, I've been a ghost, Evelyn. Just going through the motions, waiting, searching, hoping. And now that I have you back, you won't lose me. I pulled back enough to meet his eyes. But I need you to promise me something. Anything. Marco. When he wakes up, I swallowed hard. Let me meet him. Let me be part of your family for real this time. Not just the hidden girlfriend you're protecting from the truth. Lorenzo's expression shifted through surprise, hope, and something that looked almost like fear. You want to stay? After everything you've learned tonight? I want to stop running. The admission felt like stepping off a cliff. I want to stop being the naive librarian who thinks the world is safe and good. I took a breath. I want to be with you, Lorenzo, all of you. The darkness and the danger and the obsession. But not as your prisoner or your toy. As your partner. The kiss he gave me was different from all the others. Less possession, more reverence. His hands framed my face like I was something precious and breakable, his lips moving against mine with a tenderness that made my chest ache. When he pulled back, his thumb traced my cheekbone, his eyes searching mine. My partner means you're in this world completely, Piccola. It means you see things, know things, that you can never walk away from. It means I choose you. I covered his hand with mine, knowing exactly what that choice costs. His phone rang, shattering the moment. Lorenzo answered it without looking away from me, listening intently. Then his expression transformed, relief flooding his features so completely that he looked years younger. "He's awake," Lorenzo said, ending the call. "Marco's out of surgery and awake. The doctors say he'll make a full recovery." The relief that washed through me was unexpected in its intensity. Thank God. "We need to go to the hospital." Lorenzo was already moving, grabbing his jacket, issuing orders to Carlo, who'd appeared in the doorway. "I need to see him, He stopped, looking back at me. "Will you come with me? I know it's late. I know this isn't how you wanted to meet him, but I'll come." I grabbed my coat from where it had been draped over a chair. "Partners, remember? That means I'm there for the hard parts too." The smile he gave me was worth every fear, every doubt, every moment of the past 6 months. We left the house together, stepping into the cold November night. And for the first time since Lorenzo Valentino had looked at me across a crowded room, I wasn't afraid of where we were going. I was ready. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and fear. Lorenzo's hand never left my lower back as we moved through the corridors, his guards forming a protective wall around us that made nurses and patients alike press themselves against the walls to let us pass. We weren't walking. We were conquering territory, claiming space in a building that suddenly felt too small to contain Lorenzo's presence. The ICU was on the 7th floor, and by the time we arrived, there were already men in dark suits stationed at every entrance. Lorenzo's people, I realized, turning a public hospital into a private fortress. "He's in room 3, Carlo said, appearing beside us with the kind of timing that suggested he'd been tracking our movements. "Stable. The doctor wants to talk to you first." A tired-looking surgeon approached, his scrub still marked with Marco's blood. "Mr. Valentino, your brother was lucky, if you can call 3 gunshot wounds lucky. 1 grazed his shoulder, 1 went through his side without hitting major organs, and 1 lodged near his spine. We removed it successfully, but he'll need physical therapy, months of it." "But he'll walk?" Lorenzo's voice was controlled, but I felt the tension vibrating through him. "He'll walk. He'll recover fully, given time and proper care." The surgeon glanced at the guards positioned throughout the corridor. "I assume you'll be providing private security for his recovery? He won't be staying here." Lorenzo was already pulling out his phone. "I'm having him transferred to a private facility within the hour. You'll be compensated generously for your discretion and your care." The surgeon looked like he wanted to argue, then thought better of it. "Of course. I'll have his charts prepared for transfer." When the doctor left, Lorenzo turned to me, his expression softening slightly. "Are you ready for this? Marco can be intense. More intense than you." I tried for levity and almost succeeded. His smile was brief but genuine. "Different intense. He's going to have questions about you, about us, about why I lost my mind for 6 months. He's my brother, Evelyn, my closest advisor, my best friend. His opinion matters. Then let's hope he likes me." I squeezed his hand. Though given the family track record, I'm not optimistic about Valentino family opinions. Lorenzo's laugh surprised us both. A real laugh, warm and unexpected in this sterile corridor. "Fair point." He pressed a kiss to my temple. "Come on. Let's introduce you to the only person in my family worth knowing." Marco's room was filled with the soft beeping of monitors and the hushed sound of machines keeping watch. He lay in the hospital bed, tubes and wires connected to various parts of his body, his face pale, but his eyes alert. Those eyes, so like Lorenzo's but somehow warmer, tracked us as we entered. "About fucking time." Marco's voice was rough, probably from the breathing tube they'd removed. "I get shot and you take a leisurely drive to visit?" "I was busy dealing with the person who arranged your shooting." Lorenzo moved to his brother's bedside, and the emotion on his face was unguarded, raw. How are you feeling? Like I got shot 3 times, so, peachy. Marco's gaze shifted to me, curiosity replacing pain for a moment. And who's this? Please tell me you didn't bring a nurse as a consolation prize. Marco, this is Evelyn. Lorenzo's hand found mine again, pulling me closer to the bed. Evelyn, my brother Marco. The idiot who apparently walks around Brooklyn without proper security. I had security, Marco protested. They just didn't expect a sniper on a roof 2 blocks away. Very professional hit, by the way. I'm almost impressed. His eyes studied me with sharp intelligence. Evelyn. As in the Evelyn? The one who made my brother lose his goddamn mind for half a year? Heat flooded my cheeks. I didn't mean to. She's back, Lorenzo interrupted, and something in his voice made Marco's expression shift. Permanently. Marco was silent for a long moment, his gaze moving between us, reading things in Lorenzo's face that I probably couldn't see. Finally he smiled, a real smile despite the pain he must have been in. Well, it's about damn time. I was getting tired of your brooding, he winced, adjusting his position slightly. So, Evelyn, what made you come back to my pain-in-the-ass brother? Stockholm Syndrome? Financial desperation? A really compelling argument? Sophia lied to her, Lorenzo said, his voice hardening. 6 months ago, our aunt convinced Evelyn I was a murderer, showed her faked evidence, convinced her she'd be my next victim if she stayed. Evelyn ran because she thought she was saving her own life. Marco's expression went from curious to murderous in seconds. Sophia, that manipulative bitch. I always said we should have cut her out years ago, but no. You wanted to keep the family together. He coughed, grimacing, and now she's escalated to attempted murder. Tell me you're dealing with it. She's at the warehouse, waiting. Lorenzo's tone left no doubt about what waiting meant. Volkov helped her. She's been feeding him information, undermining us from the inside. This wasn't just about Marco, it was about weakening my position, making me look distracted and vulnerable. Because of me, I said quietly. She used me as a weapon against you. Marco's eyes softened when he looked at me. Hey, that's not on you. Sophia's been plotting against Lorenzo since before you were born, probably. You were just convenient timing. He tried to shift again and hissed in pain. Fuck. Remind me never to get shot again. Let me get the nurse. I started to move toward the door, but Marco's voice stopped me. Wait. He looked at Lorenzo, something passing between them in silent communication. You trust her? After everything? With my life, Lorenzo said without hesitation. Even knowing she left you once? That she might leave again? She won't. Lorenzo's hand tightened on mine. We've had that conversation. She's choosing this life, choosing me, knowing exactly what it means. Marco studied me for a long moment, and I met his gaze steadily. Whatever test this was, I wasn't going to fail it by looking away. Okay, Marco said finally. Okay. If Lorenzo trusts you, I trust you. Welcome to the family, Evelyn, such as it is. He smiled wryly. Fair warning, the annual Christmas dinner is going to be really awkward this year. Despite everything, I laughed. I think we can skip Christmas with Sophia. God, yes, please. Marco's eyes were starting to droop, exhaustion and pain medication catching up with him. Lorenzo, you need to handle this quickly. Volkov will move fast once he realizes his inside source is compromised, and the other families will be watching to see how you respond. I know. Lorenzo's jaw was set, his mind already working through strategy. Carlo's coordinating security for the transfer. You'll be at the estate by morning, with round-the-clock medical care and guards. Nothing gets near you again. The estate? Marco's eyebrows rose. The new place? The one you bought for... He glanced at me, understanding dawning. Ah, the love nest. It's secure, Lorenzo said firmly. And it's home. Our home. All of us. The possessiveness in those words sent a shiver through me. But not the fearful kind. This was different. This was family. Protection. Belonging. Things I'd been running from because I'd been taught to fear them. A nurse entered, checking Marco's vitals with practiced efficiency. He needs to rest, she said, giving Lorenzo a look that suggested she was one of the few people brave enough to order him around. You can come back after the transfer. Lorenzo nodded, then leaned down to grip his brother's shoulder. Rest. Heal. I'll handle everything else. I know you will. Marco's voice was fading, sleep pulling him under. Just don't do anything stupid. Well, more stupid than usual. Outside the room, Lorenzo pulled me into an empty waiting area, his hands framing my face. I need to go handle Sofia and Volkov. It's going to take most of the night. Carlo will take you back to the estate, where you'll have guards and security and... No. The word came out more forcefully than I intended. No, Lorenzo. I'm not going to sit in that house waiting and wondering what's happening. Partners, remember? His expression hardened. Evelyn, what I need to do tonight, you don't want to see it. Trust me. Maybe not, but I need to understand it. I held his gaze. You keep trying to protect me from the reality of your world, but I can't be part of it if I don't see it. All of it. You want to see me question Sofia? His voice dropped dangerously. You want to watch what happens when someone betrays my family? Because it's not pretty, Piccola. It's not something you can unsee. I don't need to watch. My hands covered his where they rested on my face. But I need to know you're not hiding things from me anymore. I took a breath. I need you to trust me with the truth of who you are. Lorenzo's eyes searched mine, and I saw the war happening behind them. The instinct to protect me, warring with the desire to share his burden. Finally, he pulled me close, his lips against my ear. Sofia betrayed us. She tried to kill Marco, to destroy everything I've built, to take you from me. His voice was cold steel. In my world, that has consequences. Permanent ones. Can you live with that? I thought about Marco in that hospital bed. Tubes and wires keeping him alive. About the 6 months I'd spent running from a man who'd never been the monster I'd been told he was. About Sofia's smile as she'd shown me those fake photos, manufacturing my fear with such practiced ease. Yes, I whispered. I can live with that. Lorenzo pulled back, studying my face like he was seeing me for the first time. You've changed. You've shown me the truth, about your world, about what survival looks like here. I straightened my shoulders. I'm not the naive librarian anymore, Lorenzo. I can't be. Not if I'm going to survive beside you. Something in his expression shifted. Pride mixed with regret. I never wanted to change you. You didn't. Sofia did. She forced me to see the world as it really is, not as I wanted it to be. I managed a small smile. You just get to benefit from the lesson. His kiss was fierce, claiming, a brand of ownership that I felt down to my bones. When he pulled away, his eyes were molten. Carlo takes you home. You stay there, with guards, until I return. That's not negotiable. Fine. I could give him this. But Lorenzo, when you come back, don't hide from me. Don't pretend it didn't happen, or that you're anything other than what you are. I want all of you, remember? All of me might be more than you bargained for. Let me be the judge of that. He kissed me once more, softer this time, almost reverent. Then he was striding away, his guards falling into formation, his phone already at his ear. I watched him disappear around the corner and felt the weight of my choice settle into my bones. I'd chosen this, chosen him. Chosen a life where justice looked different and love came with edges sharp enough to draw blood. Carlo appeared at my elbow, respectful, but firm. Miss Evelyn, the car is ready. The drive back to the estate was quiet. Carlo didn't speak, and I was grateful for the silence. I needed to process everything. Sofia's betrayal, Marco's acceptance, Lorenzo's trust in me despite every reason not to give it. The house looked different when we arrived. No longer a prison, but a sanctuary. Guards patrolled the grounds, their presence a reminder that safety came at a price here. Inside, everything was exactly as we'd left it, including the wine glasses still sitting on the side table in the living room. Your room has been prepared, Carlo said, gesturing toward the stairs. Mr. Valentino asked that you make yourself comfortable. He'll return by morning. Thank you, Carlo. I paused. And thank you for earlier. For protecting Lorenzo, for being someone he can trust. Carlo's expression softened slightly. He's a good man, Miss Evelyn, better than his father was, better than most people in this life, but he's been lost without you, like a part of him was missing. He met my eyes directly. I'm glad you came back. Upstairs, I found my clothes hanging in the closet, all of them, including pieces I'd left behind at Lorenzo's penthouse 6 months ago. He'd kept everything. Every dress, every pair of shoes, every piece of evidence that I'd existed in his life. On the nightstand was a photo I'd never seen before. Lorenzo and Marco, maybe 5 years younger, laughing at something off camera. Brothers, family, the things Lorenzo had been willing to kill for, to die for, to burn the world down to protect. And now, I was part of that inner circle, that protected, dangerous, fiercely loyal world where love meant possession and trust meant sharing darkness. I changed into comfortable clothes, a soft sweater and leggings from my old apartment, and curled up on the bed, surrounded by evidence of Lorenzo's obsession. The photos on the wall, my clothes in the closet, the book on the nightstand that I'd been reading the night I left. He'd built a shrine to us, to what we'd been, to what he'd refused to let die. Hours passed. I dozed fitfully, jerking awake at every sound, wondering what was happening at that warehouse, what Lorenzo was doing to Sophia, how far he would go to protect what was his. Dawn was breaking when I heard the front door open, heard Lorenzo's voice speaking in low tones with Carlo. Footsteps on the stairs, measured and heavy. Then he was in the doorway, still wearing his suit but rumpled now, his hair disheveled, his eyes exhausted. There was blood on his shirt cuff, just a few drops, barely visible. "It's done," he said simply. I sat up, my heart pounding. "Sophia?" "Gone. The Bratva will receive her body as a message about interfering in family business." His voice was flat, emotionless. "Volkov will understand what happens when you betray us." I should have felt horror, should have recoiled from this man who'd just killed his own aunt without hesitation. Instead, I felt only a strange, fierce satisfaction. "Good," I said. Lorenzo stared at me for a long moment, searching for disgust or fear and finding neither. Then he was across the room, pulling me into his arms, holding me like I was the only solid thing in a world gone liquid. "I thought you'd hate me," he whispered against my hair. "Thought you'd see what I really am and run again." "I see what you are." I pulled back enough to meet his eyes. "You're a man who protects what he loves, who doesn't apologize for doing what's necessary, who built an empire on loyalty and blood and refuses to let anyone threaten it." I cupped his face, feeling the stubble rough under my palms. "And I love you for it. All of it. The darkness and the light." His kiss tasted like desperation and relief and homecoming. We fell back onto the bed together, and as dawn light filtered through the windows, Lorenzo showed me exactly how much my acceptance meant to him. Later, wrapped in sheets and each other, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on my skin, Lorenzo spoke into the comfortable silence. "Marco's being transferred this afternoon. He'll stay in the guest wing until he's recovered enough to return to his own place. If that's okay with you." "Of course it's okay. He's your brother. This is his home too." "Our home," Lorenzo corrected. "You, me, and Marco. The family that matters." His hand slid over my hip possessively. "The family I'll kill for, die for, burn the entire world down for." "So dramatic," I teased, but my voice was soft. "With you? Always." He pulled me closer, his body warm and solid against mine. "You're stuck with me now, Piccola. No more running, no more doubts. You're mine, and I'm yours. And anyone who tries to come between us will learn exactly what that means. Promise?" I tilted my head back to meet his eyes. "Promise." His lips brushed mine, sealing the vow. "Forever, Evelyn. Whether you like it or not, I like it," I whispered against his mouth. "God help me, I really like it." His laughter was low and warm, and for the first time in 6 months, maybe for the first time ever, I felt completely, perfectly home. 3 months later, spring was trying to break through winter's grip. I stood in the estate's kitchen, sunlight streaming through the windows as I attempted to make coffee without burning it, a skill that still somehow eluded me, despite Lorenzo's patient instruction. The house had transformed from a gilded cage into something that felt impossibly like home, filled with the comfortable chaos of people who actually lived there instead of just existing in carefully curated spaces. You're murdering that coffee maker. Marco's voice came from the doorway. He'd recovered remarkably well, walking with only a slight limp now, though the scars from his shooting remained hidden beneath expensive clothes. Here, let me before you trigger the smoke alarm again. That was one time, I protested, stepping aside to let him take over. And in my defense, who knew coffee makers could actually catch fire? People who read instruction manuals. He grinned, moving with practiced ease despite his injuries. The physical therapy had been grueling, but Marco approached recovery the same way he approached everything, with stubborn determination and inappropriate humor. Lorenzo's on a call with the Calabrese family. Something about expanding into their territory in Jersey. Should I be worried? I'd learned enough about Lorenzo's business in the past 3 months to know when expanding territory meant potential conflict. Nah. They're being reasonable. Probably because they heard what happened to Sophia and decided cooperation was healthier than opposition. Marco poured 2 cups of coffee with professional efficiency. Your boyfriend has a reputation now. The Don who burned his own blood for betrayal. It's made people cautious. I accepted the cup he offered, inhaling the rich aroma. Does it bother you? What happened to her? Marco's expression went serious. She tried to kill me, Evelyn. Shot me 3 times and left me bleeding in the street. If Lorenzo hadn't handled it, I would have. Family or not, betrayal is betrayal. He took a sip of his coffee. Besides, in this world, mercy is often seen as weakness. Lorenzo did what needed to be done to protect all of us. The casual acceptance of violence still sometimes caught me off guard, though less than it used to. I'd spent 3 months learning the rules of this world. Not just the spoken ones, but the unspoken codes that governed everything from business deals to blood feuds. Speaking of protection, Marco continued, Lorenzo's been weird lately, more protective than usual if that's even possible. He knows something I don't. Not that he's told me, which was mostly true. Lorenzo had been more intense recently, checking in more often, insisting on additional security for even routine trips to the library where I'd recently returned to work part-time. Why? Because my brother doesn't do anything without reason. And right now he's acting like... Marco paused, studying me with sudden intensity. When was your last period? I nearly dropped my coffee. Excuse me? I have 3 sisters back in Italy, Marco said matter-of-factly. I recognize the signs. The extra security, the obsessive protection, the way he looks at you like you're made of spun glass. His eyes widened slightly. Holy shit. You're pregnant. I'm not... But my words died as my brain caught up with my body, the exhaustion I'd attributed to adjusting to my new life, the nausea that came and went, the way Lorenzo had been watching me with something that looked almost like reverence mixed with his usual possessiveness. Oh God. I set down my coffee cup with shaking hands. Oh God, Marco, I think I might be. His face split into a genuine smile. That's amazing. Evelyn, that's... He caught my expression. Why do you look terrified? Because I'm 26 years old, living with a man who runs a criminal empire and potentially carrying his child? My voice rose slightly. Because I've only been back in his life for 3 months? Because bringing a baby into this world seems like the best possible thing that could happen to my brother? Lorenzo's voice cut through my panic. He stood in the doorway, still wearing his suit from the morning meeting, his expression unreadable. Marco, give us a moment. Marco squeezed my shoulder supportively as he passed. Congratulations, big brother. Try not to be too intense about it. Too late, Lorenzo muttered, but his eyes never left mine. The silence after Marco left was deafening. Lorenzo crossed the kitchen in 3 strides, his hands coming to rest on my hips with familiar possessiveness. How long have you known? I asked quietly. 2 weeks. His thumb traced small circles on my hip bone. You started refusing wine at dinner. You've been tired earlier in the evenings, and I know your body, Evelyn. I know every change, every shift, every new reality before you do. And you didn't tell me? I was waiting for you to notice, waiting to see if... He paused, and for the first time in months, I saw a genuine uncertainty in his eyes. I wasn't sure how you'd feel about it. About carrying my child, bringing a baby into this life. I covered his hands with mine, feeling the warmth of his skin, the strength in his fingers. Are you sure that I'm pregnant? Carlo's wife is a nurse. She confirmed it yesterday when you thought you were just getting a routine checkup. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. I've been having you monitored medically since you came back. Don't be angry. It was for your protection. Of course you have. But there was no heat in my words. This was Lorenzo. Protective to the point of obsession, controlling every variable he could to keep me safe. So, we're having a baby. We're having a baby. The words seemed to unlock something in him. His hand slid around to my lower back, pulling me flush against him. You're carrying my child, Evelyn. My son or daughter. Do you have any idea what that means to me? Tell me. I needed to hear it, needed to understand how he felt beneath the control and certainty. It means everything I've built, everything I've fought for, finally has meaning beyond power and territory. His forehead pressed against mine, his breath mingling with my own. It means family in a way I haven't had since my mother died. It means you're bound to me forever in a way that goes beyond choice or circumstance. His voice dropped to something raw and honest. It means I get to give my child the childhood I never had, safe, protected, loved without condition. Tears pricked my eyes. You're going to be insufferable, aren't you? Overprotective and controlling and absolutely impossible. Completely. His smile was unrepentant. You'll have guards when you're 9 months pregnant. Our child will never know what it means to be unsafe or unloved. Or any Piccola will be so protected, so cherished, so absolutely smothered with security that you'll probably want to murder me by the 3rd trimester. Probably. But I was smiling through tears. We're really doing this? Bringing a baby into your world? Our world, he corrected. And yes, we're building something new, Evelyn. Something that isn't just about power or fear or territory. Something that's about family, about loyalty, about creating a life that matters beyond business and blood feuds. You make it sound almost normal. It will be our normal. His kiss was gentle, reverent, filled with promise. I'll make sure of it. The next few months passed in a blur of preparations and precautions. Lorenzo transformed one of the estate's bedrooms into a nursery, hiring the best designers and installing security systems that would have made Fort Knox jealous. Marco threw himself into the role of uncle-to-be with unexpected enthusiasm, arguing with Lorenzo about everything from baby names to appropriate first weapons. I'm joking, Marco insisted when I'd looked horrified at the weapons comment. Mostly. Maybe we wait until they're at least 10. The other families sent gifts and congratulations, each one a careful political gesture acknowledging the significance of Lorenzo's heir, a new generation of the Valentino family, representing both continuation and change. My belly grew, and with it, Lorenzo's protectiveness reached new heights. He insisted on accompanying me to every doctor's appointment, his hand never leaving my lower back, his eyes constantly scanning for threats that existed only in his mind. You're going to give yourself a heart attack, I told him, during one particularly tense visit to the obstetrician. The receptionist isn't planning to assassinate me. You don't know that. But his hand relaxed slightly on my back. I can't help it, Evelyn. Every time you leave my sight, I imagine every possible danger, every way someone could hurt you or our baby. Then stay close. I laced my fingers through his. But trust that I'm stronger than you think. That our baby will be protected not just by your security, but by my own intelligence and caution. He pulled me close, his large hand spanning my growing belly. You're everything, Piccola. You and this child, my entire world in 2 bodies. Dr. Chen smiled at us from across the exam room. Well, your entire world is developing perfectly. Strong heartbeat, good growth markers, no complications. She handed me a printout of the ultrasound. Would you like to know the sex? Lorenzo and I exchanged glances. We'd discussed this, argued about it actually. Lorenzo wanted to know so he could prepare properly. I'd wanted to be surprised. We'd finally compromised on letting him know while I remained in the dark. Tell him, I said. But don't tell me. Dr. Chen nodded, gesturing Lorenzo closer. She whispered something in his ear, and I watched his expression transform. shock melting into something so tender it made my chest ache. "What?" I demanded. "Lorenzo, what is it?" He turned to me, and there were actual tears in his eyes. "I'll tell you after they're born," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "But Evelyn..." He cupped my face, his thumb brushing across my cheekbone. "Thank you for this, for them, for everything." The pronoun didn't escape my notice. "Them, Lorenzo? Is it twins?" His smile was beatific. "You said you didn't want to know. I hate you." "No, you don't." He pressed a kiss to my forehead. "You love me, even when I'm insufferable." The pregnancy continued without complications, though Lorenzo's security measures became increasingly elaborate. By month 7, I had a dedicated security team that accompanied me everywhere, including the library where I'd continued working part-time against Lorenzo's protests. "I need something that's mine," I'd argued. Something beyond being Lorenzo Valentino's pregnant girlfriend. "Fiancé," he'd corrected, producing a ring that had probably cost more than my childhood home. "And soon, wife. We're getting married before the baby comes." We'd married in a small ceremony at the estate. Just Marco, Carlo, a handful of Lorenzo's most trusted people, and a priest who asked no questions about the groom's profession. I'd worn a simple white dress that accommodated my belly, and Lorenzo had looked at me like I was every dream he'd never dared to have. "Mine," he'd whispered, as he slid the ring onto my finger. "Finally, officially, completely mine." "Ours," I'd corrected. "We belong to each other." His kiss had tasted like forever. Now, in month 9, I was enormous, uncomfortable, and absolutely ready for this pregnancy to be over. Lorenzo had become even more impossible, if that was even feasible, hovering constantly, anticipating my every need, driving me to distraction with his obsessive care. "I'm going to the library," I announced one morning, struggling to tie my shoes around my massive belly. "No." Lorenzo appeared in the doorway, already shaking his head. "Dr. Chen said you could go into labor any day. You're staying here where I can protect you." "Lorenzo Valentino, I am not spending my last days of pregnancy trapped in this house, no matter how beautiful it is." I gave up on my shoes and glared at him. "I'm going to the library. I'm going to shelve books for 2 hours. And then I'm coming home. You can send the entire security team if it makes you feel better, but I'm going." He looked like he wanted to argue, then caught sight of my expression and wisely reconsidered. "Fine, but Carlo drives you, and you take your phone, and you call me if anything, and I mean anything, feels off. Deal." I waddled over to kiss him. "I love you, even when you're being ridiculously overprotective." "I love you more." His hand spread across my belly, and our baby kicked against his palm. His face softened. "Both of you. All of you." The library was quiet that afternoon, the spring sunshine streaming through tall windows, dust motes dancing in the light. I shelved books slowly, methodically, enjoying the familiar rhythm of the work. Carlo and 2 other guards maintained a discreet distance, trying and failing to look like ordinary library patrons. I was reaching for a high shelf when the first contraction hit. It wasn't the gentle, preliminary kind Dr. Chen had described. This was immediate and intense, stealing my breath and making me grab the bookshelf for support. The books I'd been holding scattered across the floor. "Mrs. Valentino?" Carlo was beside me in seconds, his hand steadying my elbow. "Are you—" Another contraction, stronger than the first. "Hospital," I gasped. "Call Lorenzo. Now." The next hour was chaos. Carlo called Lorenzo while simultaneously coordinating with the hospital, arranging for the private wing Lorenzo had reserved months ago. The other guards cleared a path through the library, their professional efficiency both reassuring and terrifying. Lorenzo met us at the hospital entrance, his face pale beneath his usual control. "How far apart?" he demanded, taking my hand as another contraction hit. 3 minutes, Carlo reported. Strong and regular. Fuck. Lorenzo's composure cracked slightly. Okay. You're okay, Piccola. I've got you. The next several hours were a blur of pain and pressure, of Lorenzo's hand in mine and his voice in my ear, telling me I was strong, I was perfect, I could do this. Dr. Chen and a team of nurses moved around us with practiced efficiency. but all I could focus on was Lorenzo's face, the fear and love and absolute determination written across his features. "One more push," Dr. Chen encouraged. "Come on, Evelyn. One more." I pushed with everything I had, and suddenly the pressure released, replaced by the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. A baby's cry, strong and insistent. "It's a girl," Dr. Chen announced, placing the tiny, squirming bundle on my chest. A healthy, perfect girl, but she wasn't finished. Another contraction hit, and I looked at Lorenzo in confusion. "What? Twin B is coming," Dr. Chen said calmly. "Just like we discussed. One more time, Evelyn." Through the haze of exhaustion and emotion, I found Lorenzo's eyes. He was crying, actually crying, with joy and wonder and overwhelming love. "You knew," I gasped between contractions. "You knew it was twins. I wanted to surprise you." His laugh was watery. "Surprise, Piccola. We're having 2 daughters." The second baby came faster, another girl with the same strong lungs and perfect tiny features. Dr. Chen placed her beside her sister on my chest, and I stared down at these 2 miracles, these perfect combinations of Lorenzo and me. "2 girls," I whispered, stroking their impossibly soft skin. "Lorenzo, we have 2 daughters. We have 2 daughters," he repeated, his voice filled with such profound emotion it made my chest ache. His hand covered both babies gently, protecting and claiming them in one gesture. 2 perfect, beautiful daughters who will never know what it means to be afraid or unloved or anything less than absolutely precious. Marco burst into the room moments later, ignoring the nurse's protests. I heard, "Oh my God, there's 2 of them." He stared at the babies with undisguised wonder. "Lorenzo, you absolute madman. You made 2 humans. I helped," I pointed out weakly. "You did all the work," Lorenzo corrected, pressing kisses to my forehead, my cheeks, my lips. "You're incredible. You're perfect. You've given me everything I never knew I needed." Over the next few hours, as nurses checked vital signs and cleaned us up, Lorenzo never left my side. He held our daughters with a gentleness that contrasted sharply with the ruthless Dawn the world knew, his face transformed by a joy so complete it was almost painful to witness. "What should we name them?" I asked, watching him cradle both babies with surprising expertise. "Isabella," he said immediately. "After my mother. For the one with the darker hair." He looked at the second baby, slightly smaller, with lighter hair that caught the light. "And Sophia, not after my aunt," he added quickly, seeing my expression. "After the concept, wisdom, because she'll need it, growing up as my daughter, Isabella and Sofia Valentino." I tested the names, feeling their weight and promise. They're perfect. They're ours. Lorenzo carefully placed the babies in the bassinet beside my bed, then climbed in beside me, pulling me against his chest. "Our family, Evelyn, the one I've been building toward my entire life without knowing it." "The one worth everything," I agreed, settling into the circle of his arms. Marco stuck his head back in. "The families are already sending gifts. Word travels fast when a Don has heirs." He grinned. "Plural heirs. You really don't do anything by halves, do you, brother?" "Never have." Lorenzo's arms tightened around me. "Never will." As spring sunshine filled the private hospital room, warming the space where our daughters slept peacefully in their bassinet, I thought about the journey that had brought us here. The fear and running, the lies and truth, the darkness and light. Sophia's betrayal had paradoxically given me the greatest gift, forcing me to see Lorenzo as he truly was, not as I'd been taught to fear him. "What are you thinking?" Lorenzo's voice was soft against my ear. "That I'm glad I came back." I turned in his arms to face him. "That despite everything, the danger and the violence and the complicated darkness of your world, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be, where we're supposed to be," he corrected, his hand finding mine, our rings catching the light. "You, me, Isabella, and Sophia, the Valentino family, version 2.0. Better than the original? Infinitely better." He kissed me slowly, thoroughly. A promise sealed with touch, because this version is built on truth, instead of secrets, on partnership instead of possession, on love that isn't afraid to show its teeth. Through the window, I could see Carlo and the other guards positioned around the hospital wing, turning the space into a fortress, protecting what was precious, what was worth killing for and dying for, and burning the world down for. This was my life now, our life. Beautiful and dangerous, tender and fierce, filled with love that wore armor and carried weapons and never, ever apologized for its intensity. And as I looked at Lorenzo holding our daughters, his face soft with wonder and hard with protective determination, I knew with absolute certainty that I wouldn't change a single moment of the journey that had brought us here. This was home. This was family. This was love in all its complicated, consuming, perfectly imperfect glory. And I was finally, completely, contentedly his, just as he was mine.